Hey, how y'all doing today? It's your boy, Coach Buck, Big Buck, back with you with W.A.B.Sports-Talk. We got a special treat for you tonight, along with my co-host, Mr. Tim Beret, out there in South Carolina. We got no other than Mr. Larry Nance, one of the old legends from Clemson, that played in the NBA, and he's on the phone with us tonight. How you doing, Mr. Lance? How you doing? You doing all right today?
I'm doing good, man. I see you just like my family. Might well call you family because they all call me old. You don't start it with when the word old hit you first. That's really something.
Hey, you ain't old. You seasoned very well. You seasoned very well. Yeah,
This is true.
you set a good trend for us. I follow back behind in your footsteps and
Thank
everything,
you.
man. We appreciate you coming on the show with us tonight, man. Talk about your life and the things you got going on and everything. And Tim Beret, how you doing out there in Clemson, man? You doing good?
Well, I'm doing great. Great to be with two great big guys from Clemson history, and especially the great Larry Nance. My first year at Clemson was 78, 79. That was his sophomore year, kind of the year he started to come into his own. So it's great to be with him.
Right,
Yes,
right.
sir. You too.
That's good.
Absolutely.
So Mr. Nance, where are you located at now? Where are you located at now?
I am in Akron, Ohio. That's where I retired from playing for the Cavs, of course, and we're still in the same house. Just so happened it's got a little pond out there with full of bass, and man, it's gonna be hard for us to ever move off that thing.
Oh, okay. That's what's up right there. Y'all got some cold weather coming that way tonight, don't you?
Yeah, we're gonna send some of it your way too, but it's we we definitely have last couple of days the weather have been out of control, really cold, and my heaters is trying to keep up, but we're doing all right. I think we'll get through it, hopefully.
Like I said, we glad that you're a part of the show. Took time out of your busy schedule to give me and Mr. Tim a part of out of your schedule. My first question for you tonight, Mr. Larry Nance, just let the fans and the people know, the Clemson fans that's watching the show, uh, the ones that don't really know, but I know they know. Where are you originally from, and how did you get started playing basketball?
Well, I'm originally from Anderson, South Carolina, which is right down the road. And I got started playing basketball through having a huge family full of uncles and cousins that all was great athletes.
Right.
And we just played all the time in the backyard. I had my uncle Bobby that passed away about 3 or 4 years ago. He could beat me in basketball for a long time, man. I just learned from that family background of just beating the crap out of each other all the time.
So you kind of like me. Y'all had a bicycle rim on a tree in the backyard, or y'all had a goal?
my dad my dad could do anything, so he was a very good mechanic, so he put me up a goal back there, and man, my backyard was full of people every day.
That's good. That's good. So what? Let's go through your process. I know you're 6'10". You're a heck of an athlete as far as I remember. Because when I chose kind of Clemson, I looked at some of the big men that was there. So when did you really? I know you played in the backyard, but when did you notice that leaping and jumping ability that you had?
I'm not sure. It's funny. I think who noticed it was Coach Foster. I mean, because when he seen me play, well, let's back up a little bit. I went to McDuffie High School in Anderson, which my father was a mechanic. I thought I was
Uh-huh.
going to be a mechanic or a truck driver. And some kind of way, I did love the game of basketball and I played all the time, but I didn't think about a scholarship or nothing. And as a matter of fact, I had talked to Anderson Junior College because my brother went there and had a very successful career. So I was going to go there because it was in town and I'll be near my family. And some kind of way, Coach Foster looked at me, and I was 6'6", 6'6" and a half then. He looked
Uh-huh.
at me and seen something that he liked and gave me a scholarship. And that's how I ended up at Clemson. Is he seen something in me and gave me a scholarship. And my first couple years were rough, and because back then they didn't know what growing pain was, and I didn't either. And I had growing pains, and I think everybody thought I just didn't want to compete because I was hurting so bad. But I grew, like 3.5 more inches, and then all of a sudden I was 6'10", and Coach Foster knew what to do with me. But I have to thank him so much for seeing something that nobody else seen, because I sure didn't have no offers from anybody else.
Okay, so really you kind of fell into Clemson, and that's a great story, Larry. I mean, because if you really know, we know your future. So you fell into Clemson, and you had growing pains, and the first couple of years, I think Tim Ray can come in on this part right here about your freshman and sophomore year at Clemson. I'll let Tim take over with that right there.
Well, when I first came to Clemson, and I was very close to Coach Foster, and he always told me the thing he looked for the most with guys was that they had good hands and whether they had big feet. Because if they had big feet, they were going to grow into those feet.
I had both.
And you had both. And so, Coach Foster always kidded. He said, yeah, one of the greatest players I had to fight off Anderson Junior College to get. So your freshman year, you came in, you averaged just about 3 points a game, about 3 rebounds, didn't play all that much. But, man, your sophomore year, you really came alive. And there were a couple of games I remember that were huge for you. Seemed like you had a big game in Chapel Hill against North Carolina, game we lost, but I think you had like 21 points in that game. And then at the end of your sophomore year, we beat Duke at Little John, and we hammered them 70-49. And that was a Duke team that had played for the national championship the year before.
Yeah, that was those were great years. Again, like I said, I finally got to my height, and we had great point guards, man. And I tell my kids all the time, my whole thing was going back door, man. If somebody overplayed me, I was going back door, and all they had to do was throw it up. And I had guards that would just throw it up, and the same thing happened in the NBA. And I'm just fortunate that Coach Foster seen the long arms and the big feet, or I'll probably be out on the road driving trucks right now.
Well, speaking of driving, Buck, you probably don't know this, but one of the neat things I saw up close of the Clemson family was, a lot of times Larry's father would pick us up at the airport because he drove the bus a lot of times that when we came into the Greenville Airport. And that was the coolest thing for me. You'd have a good game and your father would be there and give you a hug when you got on the bus. I just thought that was the coolest thing. And I loved your dad. Your dad was the most down-to-earth guy going.
Yeah, those were the best days because it really didn't matter if I was 0 for 30 or 30 for 30, because he just thought his son he just enjoyed watching him play and be on the court, man. And I could never play a bad game in his eyes. And it was always good to see him when he drove up with that bus because, I know that if shortly I would have almost been on that bus driving with him, because I think he ended up getting 2, and I did take a trip with him one day. We hauled some people, and I had the best family life that could possibly be. That's for sure.
No, you could tell that from the get-go, from the first time Now Larry was a great kidder for those, and I know we got some Clemson fans watching. And there's one guy who's watching in particular that I want to tell this story. So, when Larry was at Clemson, we gave him the nickname Helium Head. So you may wonder why we call him Helium. Now, that wasn't because Larry had a big head, but the guy who was the sports information guy before me for basketball was a guy named Al Adams. Now, Al Adams had a big head.
Al got a big head.
And so Larry used to kid him. He'd go up to him, and he'd hold he'd go around and say, man, your head is so big it looks like it's got helium in it. And so Larry would call him Helium Head, and so then Al and I would call Larry Helium Head. And so that's where came from.
Those jokes used to go all the time. That was so funny. Yeah, oh man, those were the best years, and that kind of stuff is what make good friends and bring a lot of smiles to faces, because it sounds like I'm making enemies by calling a man Helium Head, but he never got mad. We used to laugh about that and have fun with it.
No, it was taking a great fun. Big Al got a big kick out of it. And I know when Al has seen Larry when he's come back to a game or campus, Al will go up to him and out to Larry and say, call him helium head. But that was just part of the good times that we had. And Larry, the 79-80 season and that team, you were a big part of still the only Clemson team that went to the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament. There were so many great games. And I'm very close to Bobby Conrad. And one thing he always tells me is you talk about those lob plays and those dunks. He threw a lot of those passes. And in particular, there were a couple of those plays against Duke. I think you probably remember the Duke and Little John when they were number one against Mike Jaminski. That was an unbelievable night.
That was unbelievable. And then Bobby, bad back Bobby, not just Bobby. Bobby had a bad back, man.
That boy, bad back.
Yeah, he had a bad back.
Bad back Bobby.
Bad back Bobby. But man, if I looked like I was going back door, he was throw it. And he always told this story where I went back door and he threw it and I missed the dunk. And coach took him out of the game.
Yeah.
And now Bobby told that story. I was like, why you take me out? I couldn't take Larry out, but Bobby. That game against Duke was awesome because it was at home and it was just one of the best games we ever played. And that team was unbelievable. I mean, Billy Williams should have played NBA ball. Moose should have played NBA ball. I mean, we had some great players. And we should have won, and we lost. We ended up losing to UCLA, which was the worst team we played. That was our year to win it all. We had everything we needed, and I think Isaiah and them ended up winning, and we had beat them already in that year in Hawaii, right?
Now you're putting the 2 years together. That was your senior year. We beat Indiana, and they won the national championship. By the way, that's still the only time Clemson has beaten the eventual national champion, that Indiana team. But the year before, 79-80, you're right. We lost to UCLA in the game that was for the chance to go to the Final Four.
Yes.
And then Louisville ended up winning the national championship in Indianapolis, and they beat UCLA. And so, but that was a great. It's a young UCLA team with Rocket Rod Foster and Kiki Vanderway. That game, by the way, we had 5 bad minutes, and the last 5 minutes of the first half, UCLA outscored us by 11 points, and we ended up losing the game by 11. It was really an even game, from then. But getting back to that Duke game at Clemson, it was January the 9th, 1980.
Yeah.
And do you remember the crowd? There was 13,800 people in Little John. And Buck, you can relate to this. Buck, when you played in that game where Clemson won Clemson beat Duke to win the ACC regular season championship, and you remember how packed that was. There were 11,500 people there that night. There was 2,500 more people for that game that Larry Nance played in. It was 87-82 in overtime, and it was 360 degrees of people. There were no aisles. Every aisle was full of fans. I should have given you some pictures from the background to see. I still have some pictures from that game.
Dude, they were loud. They were so loud.
But it was, we sold out, that game in particular. But go back a little bit, Larry, about, Billy Williams. He had a terrific year. He was first team All ACC, but night in, night out, he was a reliable 20-point scorer.
Oh, he was hard. I mean, Billy was just so smooth and could just get to his spot and hit that jump shot. And he understood the game. I never had a chance to talk to him to see why he didn't play NBA, but his game was more of an NBA game than college game. I mean, that's how Billy was better than all of us.
You're exactly right. It really was. It was.
Yeah, the way he played, it should have just fit right into some NBA team. But that's how it is, though. You have to have a little luck when you make the NBA, and as well as the right team pick you, because that's the only reason Billy wasn't playing basketball in the NBA.
Now you had it. Go ahead, Buck.
Well, I got a few clips of you at Clemson. Mr. Larry, I want to play, and then we'll come right back to where we left off. Okay.
All righty.
Now, Tim, what I saw now, I know I used to get over the rim, but brother, I know. Hold on, time out. I had to ask Tim, were they making the rim kind of low? You were picture, man. You. I was like, hold on, man. Larry you might have me back in the day. You were looking down the rim at 7 foot tall. I was like, whoa.
Dude, I was so skinny I had to stay in the air because those guys were beating the crap out of me. So long as I ran the floor and stayed in the air, my teammates would deliver the ball, and that's how I stay on the floor.
Well, that's where we get into what Coach Foster talked about. I mean, there's no question that in the 40 years I've been at Clemson, Larry had the best hands of anybody, and you could throw it, within 3 feet of the hoop. He was going to be able to catch it and dunk it. And I assume that was just something that came naturally to you at a young age.
Yeah, that was definitely a God-given talent. Not nothing I worked on, but if they threw it, I was gonna try to catch it, get my hands on it somehow. My little one and Larry have great hands, even though he done broke both of them right now. He's not playing, but Larry have great hands, and my little one have really good hands. If you throw him the ball, he's going to catch it. So
you talk about the one in Northwestern?
The one in Northwestern, yeah. I don't know why I call him the little one because he's 6'11". He's the tallest one of all of us.
Yeah, he's not little. Yeah.
No.
Wow. So let me ask you this question, Larry. Tim, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you good.
Okay, Larry, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so y'all had a great run, the Elite Eight. When did you decide to take your talents to the next level and to the NBA? And through that process, who was there to help you go through that process?
Well, what ended up happening there was we got called from agents, and then because it's crazy how I used to watch Dr. J play every Sunday, but I didn't really see myself as an NBA player, and I didn't really think about it until agents start calling. And then Coach Foster, said, we got these agents calling. I'm like, well, yeah, I don't know what to do with that. So he picked out about 2 or 3 agents, and we started talking back and forth. And at the time, they had said that I was going to be a 3rd rounder. So meanwhile, I was going to be a 3rd rounder, and I was good with that. I'll go compete against anybody. That's not a problem. And I got invited to the Portsmouth Invitational Tournament because a couple of the superstars didn't show up, so I got invited. Well, I went there, and at the Portsmouth, if you ever been there, if you lose the first game, you go home, and they get to pick one player from that team on the team that just beat you. Well, we lost the first game. That team picked me, and I got MVP of the Portsmouth Invitational Tournament. And from then on, that opened up eyes, and that's how I ended up getting to the first round because those guys got to see me for the first time there, and I did my thing, man. I was flying all through the gym, and that's how I got picked by the Phoenix Suns, and had to get the map out to see what Phoenix was and headed out there.
Right.
I think I was 6. I think when I went out there, I probably was 6'10", 210. That's about it.
So you
got a lot stronger after you get going.
So once he got to Clemson, he was 6'6", and you stretched out by the end of your Clemson career to being 6'10".
Yep.
You boxed him into a nice stretch long man.
Yeah, I was
okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was, like I said, I was really skinny. When I went to Phoenix, they played me at the 3 spot. But then Now I was a little tall for the 3 spot, but I could play over the top of all the guys. And I was fast enough to keep up with them. And
Right.
so because we had Chuck Robinson and Evan Adams, and Evan Adams again, I just fell into goal because Evan Adams was a great passing center. So anytime I went back door, man, he had the ball in the air. So I just made a living off that.
So you've had two Al Adamses in your life, I want to point out. Al Adams, who was the sports information when you started here and in the NBA. And I do want to point out, too, that it wasn't like Larry came out of total nowhere to get noticed in the NBA. You know, your last 2 games at Clemson, you had 27 in the ACC tournament against Wake Forest. And, of course, the Wake ACC tournament got a lot of notice. And then you're one of the few guys ever who had your career high in your last game at Clemson. You had 34 against Temple in the NIT, and I know a lot of people took notice of you then.
You know, how you remember that stuff? God, you got a mind of steel. That's sweet. But I'm gonna go home and tell Larry that tonight. I'm like, son, let me tell you what I did my last game.
That's right, 34 against Temple.
That's all right.
And you had a lot of other great games your junior and senior year. I remember, you know, your junior year we beat Maryland in a great game at Little John. They were ranked in the top 20, and we had 3 guys go for 20 in that game, and you were one of them. Talk about, Larry, I always wanted your opinion how the game has changed. You know, we started 6'10", 6'10", 6'10" across the front line in 79-80. And we gave you the nickname, the Clemson Skyline, because the skyline in Clemson was so small that being 6'10" across the front, you were as big as the Clemson Skyline with you and Moose and Horace Wyatt.
Yep.
And the game is just, I mean, nobody goes 6'10", 6'10", 6'10" anymore.
No, they don't right now because the 3 ball is so important in the game. And if they do have any bigs, he's got to step out and shoot the 3s. But no, the game is going small, and I don't quite understand that. I still like, if I could coach, I think I would try to coach you with bigs. And but the game have changed quite a bit to where like my son Larry is 6'9", and a lot of time during the game he play a center spot, and so game have changed, but our group of being 6'10", 6'10", 6'10", Moose was a monster, man. Now we talk about, he's one of my favorites, but he had good hands, and Moose could break when Daryl Dawkins broke the backboard, Moose had probably broke 3 by then. Man, he could just,
and Buck had 3 in high school. I probably Buck used to break some boards.
But you could break the backboards. You could break them back.
Yeah, man. We used to rip them out in high school. We were the first high school to ever have rolling back NBA backboards.
Wow. Okay. No, I've never broke one. I definitely. I didn't have enough weight on my butt to break them, but I definitely put in the effort to try to break them, but I just never could get one.
Hey, Larry, this is about you, but I do have to say this. I never put my weight on them. I used to rip them out.
Oh, but I didn't have the strength then. I didn't have the strength. No, you just put the power to it. But Moose could just rip them things out there. Anytime he wanted to pop one, he could pop it.
Larry Moose in the month of January of 1980 might have had the best month ever for a Clemson player. He had 23 against Jaminski. Yeah. He had like 27 against North Carolina. We played Furman, had a good team back then. I think he had his career high against Furman that year. He was, if they had stopped the season then, he'd have been a first-team All-American.
Yeah, Moose was unbelievable, man. In my book, I think he was pretty awesome. Not sure why he didn't make it either, but I'm sure, one day we'll know.
Yeah, no, you're right. So talk about when you go on the NBA, you have an unusual career in that you played almost the exact half of your games in Phoenix and the exact half of your games in Cleveland. So what was it like for the transition for you? Because you were, even though you played at a high level at Clemson, you were still kind of a small town kid from South Carolina.
This is true. So I went to Phoenix and looking around and tried to get my mom out there as soon as possible because that was my right hand. But went to Phoenix and played there 6.5 years. I thought I had a really good career thanks to Evan Adams and the Alley Hoops and Coach McLeod. We had really good teams out there. Got beat by the Lakers a couple times when we was trying to make a run, but really loved it in Phoenix. One thing we haven't talked about yet, I loved in Phoenix because I got to go to the racetrack like 3 times a week. Drag racing was kind of something I fell in love with, and so I loved the heat, and I loved the drag racing. I loved my teammates, and I loved everything about Phoenix. And all of a sudden one night we were playing the Cavs, and I'm dressed and get ready to go out and warm up on the floor, and the coach called me in and said, well, we just traded you to Cleveland. And I thought that was the
Wow.
worst thing that ever happened to me. Just like that. Cleveland was in town. I got traded to them. And I was on the bus the next morning going to LA to play the game next night, the following night. And, 6.5 years in Phoenix, 6.5 years in Cleveland. And Cleveland turned out to be, other than the weather, Cleveland turned out to be the really a blessing because we still live here, got the best fans in the world. We had some great runs with that team with Brad Daugherty, Hot Rod, Ron Harper, Mark Price, we Craig Elo, and the Mike Sanders. We had some great runs, and we didn't win a championship, and I'm comfortable with that because I wouldn't want to try with no other people than the people I tried with, and we was really close. Had the best coach in the world with Lenny Wilkins and his staff, and again, we still live here, got the best fans, and we love it here. And so it turned out to be the best thing ever. So I've had a really blessed career for sure.
You were very blessed in the coaches you had. I thought
Oh my goodness.
John McLeod. Uh,
Yep.
I saw he and Coach Foster. I think were good friends, and they seemed like they were same type. And then Lenny Wilkins was just. You talk about one of the most respected guys in NBA history. Lenny Wilkins would be right up there.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the fortunate thing about the 3 coaches I have for me is because they understood the game and they let you play and use your strengths. And that's instead of trying to make me something else, they always give me plays that make me shine. All 3 coaches took advantage of whatever my strength was, whatever our team strength was. So again, I was fortunate enough to play with great coaches and learn a lot from them.
So I want to go back to one thing that you just said about when you were traded. So you were in Phoenix. You're playing the Cavaliers.
Yep.
And so that night when they told you, did you play that night?
Oh, I've always talked about that. If I could have played against my team that night, I'd have 50. But I was so mad. No, but seriously, I was so hurt because my mentality is they would only trade you if you do something bad. But that's not the case.
Right.
But
That's not the case. Yeah.
And they traded me to make the team better, and I learned that as I matured. But that night I was so hurt that as soon as the coach told me, I walked out the back door and went home. And it's funny how I left home. I didn't do no interviews or nothing. I'm driving home, and Lenny Wilkins called my wife. Now my girlfriend was at the house getting ready to come to the game to welcome me to the team, and she said, "Yeah, right. If you knew anything about Larry, you would know he's at the game," and hung up on him. So yeah, she hung up on Lenny Wilkins. So 2 minutes later, I walk in the house. She's like, "What are you doing here?" I said, "We just got traded to Cleveland." And she's like, "Well, I just hung up on your coach." And I was like, "Well, that's a heck of a start." But it was so wonderful because that night, the trainer from Cleveland and the trainer from the Suns all came over to my house. We stayed up to 3 o'clock just talking and
Wow.
laughing. And then next day I was on the bus and it was time to go play for them.
So the next day you actually got on the bus with the Cavaliers.
Next day I got on the bus because they was heading to, we were going to Lakers and play the next night. So I had to go. We had a practice. Then I had to fly back and get a physical. And then I started for the Lakers. They started me, Hot Rod, and Brad. I was the 3 then, 3, 4, and 5. And
Right.
We was a big team, but we was losing games at first though.
So how did your love of drag racing start. And what occurs to me, of course, Brad Doherty is a great commentator when it comes to racing, or has been on ESPN. Did that have anything to do with your? I guess not, though, because you said you started loving racing at Phoenix. How did that all start?
Well, my father was a mechanic, so I was around cars, and then I had a cousin that had a Nova. Remember my red Nova?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So I had a little taste for it then, but I didn't go to a racetrack till I got to Phoenix, and then I went in and fell in love with this. I went to the racetrack for the first time, and this '67 Camaro come around the corner, and his name was Blue Thunder, and I ended up buying that car and actually racing when I shouldn't have been racing, doing season. And oh yeah, I was in that car, and they caught me one time, and the coach got mad. But yep. So that's how I got introduced into drag racing, and to this day I still love it. To this day I still have a drag car. I don't drive anymore, but I still have a car.
So Larry, how did you get in the car? What you 6'10", 6'11". My question is how you, because that's hard for me to fit in the car.
Yeah, that's a great question, because it was very hard, and your legs is in your chest, and the steering wheel is up in the windshield, and that's how you drive a drag car to fit in. But it was definitely uncomfortable, and it's funny how the things you'll do when you really love it, and you really love doing it. Right. So I just made it work.
Right. Okay. I got another clip play, Larry. I'm gonna play it. Then we're gonna discuss it after I play the clip. Okay.
All right.
Shots than in his third season. This player has blossomed into one of the NBA's finest forwards. A reputation as perhaps the best leaper in the game. For this player, the sky's the limit. His dunks have become chronicle. And on the other end, he has blocked more shots than any forward in the league. At 6'10", from the Phoenix Suns, Larry Nance. Next up, from the Phoenix Suns, Larry Nance.
Okay.
All right.
Now, my question is this: do you remember that? You remember that dunk contest?
I remember that dunk contest because I was going against my hero. Dr. J was sitting out there, dude. I was Dr. J every day in my backyard.
Yeah, Dr. J and Dominique Wilkins, y'all was the three founders. That was the first dunk contest in the NBA.
Yeah.
How did that come about, and how process made out? Because you won the first slam dunk contest of the NBA.
Yeah, I think I definitely think I won it. I think if Dr. J had not have missed the dunk, he probably would have won it. I mean, I just think for history, it would have been best if he won, but he missed the shot, and then I end up winning, which, I had some good stuff, and I think I deserved to win. So it was good. I'm always in for competition, and to go against Dr. J, he was definitely going to get my best because that was the guy I looked up to and the guy I wanted to beat really bad if I was going to compete one-on-one against somebody.
Well, you were done against.
Buck. I was about to say, what is amazing is the guys he beat in that contest. When you went from dunk to dunk, had you thought ahead of time what you were going to do, or did you just decide when you got out on the court?
I just decided when I got there. But if you knew me when I went to Phoenix, I used to sit around and when practice was over, I remember Truck Roberts, Dennis Johnson, Alvin, they would all sit down and rest, and I would just be out there on the court just trying stuff, just dunking. They were like, Rook, won't you sit down? One day your knees go hurt. And I was like, oh, shut up, old man. And I would just be out there just dunking away. And so I had plenty of stuff I could do. But check this out. So dunking from the free throw line, I thought was too easy. So I never would even try that one. And then that turned out to be 50s all around the league. But I never would have. I mean, I could do that. That would have been one of the easiest one I could do. But it was fun, and just the money I won. Guess what I ended up buying? A '67 Camaro. So
wow!
So that's really one of the reasons I went, because I wanted to win. So I had seen this '67 Camaro in Phoenix that I wanted to buy, and I ended up buying that car.
Do you mind us asking how much did you win for winning that contest?
That was $10,000.
Okay.
A lot of money.
That was 1984. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So do they give out money now? Do they give out money now, Larry? Because I know even in the All-Star game, y'all got paid money. Do they pay money now to win, or they give the Gatorade trophy?
I don't know how much money it is now, but it's quite a bit. My son almost won a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's right. He was in it. I remember that.
Yeah. I personally was so proud, but I think he should have won, but he didn't. But I was really proud of him. That was more pressure than me being in anything, is watching him compete.
Did you ever happen to see? Clemson had a guy, Brian Narcissus, who was in the NCAA slam dunk contest. And he wore one of your Phoenix Suns jersey in your honor when he competed in that contest.
Huh? I didn't see that.
I'll try to find a picture of that. Yeah, it was kind of cool. He ended up he played a couple of years for the Globetrotters.
Wow, that's pretty sweet.
But yeah, he did. He was a good player for us. And but yeah, I'll try to find some pictures of that. But he got a hold of a number 22. Well, you know what? We had a number 22. Larry Nance jersey in the trophy case at Clemson. They might have just let him borrow that to compete in it. So I thought that was cool.
Good deal.
Yeah.
So Larry, let's get to the year that you retired, and you hung up your shoes. How did that come about?
Well, it didn't. I would still be trying to play now if I could, but the bad thing is I hurt my knee and decided to retire. And the bad thing is I retired from something I love to do every day. The good thing is I went to something else I love to do every day, and that was drag racing. So I went right into drag racing, so I never really slowed down. If I could do it over, I think I would have went into coaching, because I really enjoy the game. And I wish I'd have done more coaching instead of getting right into that car like I did, but I didn't. And I had a lot of fun in the car, but I spent a lot of money with that car. But that's what I did. And my kids, we had, my kids at the time, first two played soccer and started playing basketball, and we got into them, me and my wife Janie, and just had the best life in the world. Now my daughter, who was the oldest, Went to Dayton University, played basketball, wore number 22. 3 years later, Larry Jr. come along. He went to Wyoming College, wore number 22. And then all of a sudden, Pete Nance is out there now wearing number 22 for Northwestern. So you talk about somebody that have really been blessed his whole career. You're looking at him, dude. I've had wonderful situations and really blessed, and I really know it.
Absolutely. I second that. You're always been one of the more respected Clemson players that we had, and it's been fun to. I look in the box scores. Dale Davis's son plays for Indiana, and your son plays for Northwestern, and they're playing tonight. So I'm
Right.
definitely going to be following that. Let me just ask you one question about your last year. You had great stats. You averaged 16 a game. You shot 55% for the field. You were getting 9 rebounds a game, but your knees were you just didn't think you could go.
Yeah, that wasn't quite my last year. Then that year you're talking about, the next year we got Mike Patello in, and I hurt my knee at training camp.
Okay.
And then I tried to come back too soon that same year, and so I didn't play very long before I had to get right back out of there. So that I tried to play one more year.
Okay.
Right.
Well, what's it like watching your sons now? I mean, do you get to go to? Well, I know Larry Jr. You get to see, obviously, when he's playing at Cavs. But do you go to Chicago now and then and see your other son play for Northwestern?
I can't now because of COVID, but when it
Oh
wasn't,
yeah.
I did quite a bit. I mean, Chicago is a piece of cake. 6-hour drive for me, that's a piece of cake. And my daughter was in Dayton, that was 3 hours away, piece of cake. And Wyoming was a little bit far, so that was tough. But yeah, watching my kids play, I tell people all the time that no matter what game I had, watching them play is 10 times better. And I have butterflies in my stomach because I want them to do so good. And I'm so competitive that I want them to do well every game. But when they don't, I'm like my dad. Like I tell you about my dad. If they just compete hard, then I'm smiling and I'm happy. And yeah, it's a lot of fun watching Larry play. He plays a lot like me. He's aggressive and want to get steals, and he's unselfish, and he makes other teams better, and he's a lot of fun to watch. My little one is he's not like me or Larry. He can play all 5 spots. He can play point guard if you want him to, and he's a
Wow.
better shooter, and he's got a nice game. He just got to continue to work hard, and I think he'll be fine, and hopefully we get to see him out there one day.
Well, we certainly have seen the history of the Nances. They get better as they go along, and you did that each year, and Larry Jr. has, and I think Pete's going to be that way also. Where else did Pete look? I mean, Northwestern is a terrific. I mean, it's one of the best institutions you could go to have a degree from.
Pete, he got recruited by Michigan and Clemson at the end, and uh, Ohio State. So he got out there a little more than my other kids did, and now he's, like I said, he's coming into his own, and where I think he's going to be okay.
Absolutely.
That's good, Larry. Larry, man, this question I got for you right here ain't gonna have nothing to do with sports. I always ask my guys, do you cook dinner at home?
If my mom was living, the answer would be yes every day.
Every day.
But my wife is a very good cook. When she want to cook, she cook good. And now things are so easy to just call and get food. But we kind of right in the middle of the road. And are you asking me if I cook personally, or do we have cook food?
Do you cook personally?
Not much.
Not much.
Not much. If I cook you something, it's probably gonna be a hamburger or salmon or something like that. But not much.
So I know you love racing, doing the drag racing. And I know you said something about the pond in your back. So you're a big fisher. You love
Yep.
fishing.
My dad loved to fish. He had a boat, and we used to fish on Lake Hartwell for big bass. And now we live on about a 3.5 acre pond. And yep. I mean, this was a good year. We caught some big bass this year. So, if you decide to come up here one day, I'll take you out. We can catch some fish.
You know, you ain't that far from. I'm in a small country town called Bell Buckle,
All
Tennessee.
right.
All right. All I do, I love fishing and playing golf.
I love playing golf. I just can't afford the balls I lose, but I do love playing. I do love playing. I hit a long way, man, long way in the woods and stuff. But I love the game of golf. That's for sure.
Well, hopefully, man, here we do a lot of great things, man. We're doing a lot of great things at Clemson, and like I said, I appreciate you, being a part of the show and spending time with us. And hopefully, if things get better, we'll get to see you this summer. We'll be back at Clemson this year with all the guys coming in and everything. If the schedule ain't too busy, hope you can be with us and celebrate with us our little reunion that we do every summer now. And make sure keep boys, man, and they're playing well, they're looking good, and everything. And I just want to say, from Clemson guy to Clemson guy, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, we try to follow y'all footsteps and do the same thing y'all did when y'all was there.
Check out the cover of the 1980-81 Clemson Media Guide.
Check out that form, man.
It's a perfect jump shot.
Tim, I had a bad jump shot. My jump shot was horrible, but it went in sometimes.
Oh no, you could hit those shots. Now I don't know if you'd be shooting a lot of threes today, but hell, everybody shoots threes. But
I wouldn't be shooting threes. If I shot threes, I'd be on the bench. Is where I'd be.
This picture was actually taken from the Lamar game in the NCAA tournament in Arizona. That's the game we won to get to the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament. Larry, by the way, was all West Regional, and until 2018, he was the only Clemson guy to be on a all regional team from the NCAA tournament. DeVoe finally made one in 2018 when we got to the Sweet 16.
Dang, dude, you know some stuff now. I ain't know no. I don't know half of that stuff.
It comes from proofing the press guide for 40 years. They still have me proof it because I got a lot of stuff in my mind. So I still proof all the press guides at Clemson. So I'm still up on that stuff.
Good deal.
But Larry, it's great to be with you, man.
Hey Larry, you see I keep him on my side, right?
Hey, that's a good man to have on.
I still keep.
That's a good man to have on your side there. Keep it around. But Tim, I got one more question to ask you.
Yeah.
You remember the game that some team we played that came out and tried to hold the ball the whole game?
Yeah, that was UNC Asheville, and it was the last game of your junior year. It was senior day.
That was
and it was Bobby Conrad and Billy Williams and Moose's senior day. And in those days, you didn't play as many conference games, so our senior day was a non-conference game. And so after the game, Dwight Rainey, he scheduled the games. And he was so mad at the UNC Asheville coach for holding the game. Ended up 38-27 was the final score. And
I remember that. That was a miserable game.
It was a miserable game, yes. And, of course, we were really good. We had already locked up the NCAA tournament. And that was probably the most mad I've ever seen Dwight Rainey after a game. And to say we never played UNC Asheville again, at least as long as Dwight was around, I don't think we've played him since.
That was crazy.
Yeah. So, all right. Hey, I know we running. We got about 2 minutes left, but I want to throw this out there, man. In summertime, when you get you and your sons and all y'all sitting there, me and Ray want to bring you back on a father and son conversation with y'all on the show.
That'll work. Yeah, we get. That sounds like fun. And we always talking junk to each other. So man, I'm sure you and those boys, They love getting on their dad about stuff, so it'll be good. It'll be a good conversation.
I know great Thanksgiving dinner stories and Christmas stories. All play balls. So I nothing but talking sports.
So we always do. Dude, we always talk junk. We just had something at the Cavs game the other day where Larry is leading the league. Well, he was before he broke his hand, leading the leagues in steals. And then I was a shot blocker. So they was saying which one is more important to the team. Now I told my son to shut him up. I was like, dude, when I block shots, I kept it in place. So I blocked the shot and got a steal. So take that. So we keep stuff like that going all the time, man, all the time.
Right. That's all right.
That's right. You had the right approach. You had the Bill Russell approach to keep it in play. I mean, what good did it do to block it out of bounds because the other team still had the ball?
No good. No good. Keep it in play, and then your teammate get it, and that's a double whammy to that team.
That's right.
Makes sense to me.
Well, guys, we appreciate y'all. I got to play this going out commercial, and Larry, appreciate you coming on the show, spending time with me and Tim, talking some Clemson basketball, some NBA basketball, finding out what you got going on, up to date. Appreciate you being a part of W.A.B. Sports Talk. So, Tim, we're going to sign off here and go into our out commercial.
Sounds good. Just drive safely, Larry.
Yes, sir. Take care, man.
Hi.
Coach Wayne Buckingham started W.A.B. Sports. His focus is on mentoring our younger generation and teaching valuable life skills that go way beyond the field of play. Whether it's football or basketball, he has a specialized sports camp designed to address the challenges the youth of today face daily. He believes it's all about teaching healthy habits now in order for those lessons to be applied to their future decisions. W.A.B. Sports raises the money for these camps with various charity golf tournaments yearly. W.A.B. Sports also offers scholarships so that these young men and women have a greater chance at success in their life after sport. Coach Wayne truly believes the best thing in life is making a positive difference. W.A.B. Sports depends solely on donation. If you feel led to donate, contact Coach Wayne Buckingham at WABsports4@gmail.com. That's WABsports4@gmail.com.
Stay tuned for